Well, I mean, let's see. First off, bro, like what are some of the things that you're thankful and blessed for? I always try to start these conversations off by like, very easy into it and just, grounding ourselves before we really hop into a pretty deep conversation about some stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Sure.
what are some things that you feel like have been blessings in your life the last, week or so?
For one, I would say having a job to where I can provide for myself and be, self-reliant.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a blessing. Good health. That's a blessing. I think a lot of times people take those for granted. Well, that's specifically for granted. Just being able to wake up and just have your faculties and being in the right mind and being able to just operate and do things that we do with simplicity. Like, those are real blessings. So again, just to go reiterate what you said from like within the last week, I would definitely say just thinking about it, having a job to where it's like I can rely on myself, and then just being in good health.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being able to work out, being able to read, being able to like watch things that I want to watch from a self-help standpoint. Those two are probably like the biggest things that I would say are like the biggest blessings.
Man, I can't even talk enough about how much, that comes down to the make or break of, happiness.
For sure.
When I think about it, I've never really, thankfully, have had something that's kept me off my feet for a very long time. But like when I think in a moment of what it would be like to not have my legs or to not to be able to see, that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Like to see people out here really, I saw this guy at the gym, his leg was a lot smaller. Like I'm telling you, like probably as small as my wrist.
For sure.
And he's just walking around the gym, just doing his thing, dude. And I was like, that's so cool. Like I look up to people like that are able to still, grind it out every day, each day and still be a good person,
Absolutely. That's ironic that you just, you mentioned that, because I was just in the gym yesterday and my cousin, he was in there as well. And, there's a lady in there who she works out. I think she works out with her boyfriend, but she has a full arm and then she has like a nub arm.
Okay.
But she has like a contraption to where she can add weights to it and she can
yeah.
even out what she's looking to do. And I see her in there all the time. They work out together, but she's getting it in. And I look at that like, there's if when you see people operate in that space, there's really no excuse. It's it's for sure admirable, it's admirable, and it's like, it's no excuse. It's no excuse when you see that. So we have all of our components, and when you see people that, might not have certain things that we have, and they're still persevering and they're still operating in a space to where they're doing what they need to do and they're hustling and they're getting it in, it just shows it's like, it's no excuse. It's no excuse at all.
You look at yourself and you think of those times where you're just like, man, I was really down on myself in this moment, and it takes you out of it easily, which I enjoy. Like, I'm the big sucker for those Cinderella stories that you see on like SportsCenter, on those documentaries, are the ones that just, they start off with a big adversity, whether it's like cancer, whether it's, some type of disformity, and they're able to just continue to live life and be a great person.
Absolutely.
Bro. So I think everything that you mentioned is vital, and for people that are out there, that like, having a job in this day in society is tough, man. Like I talked to family members when I went back home, and they're mentioning how it's just challenging to find a job that they've got a degree for. So I can definitely resonate with that. But sitting here with me, I got a really cool dude. Just to kind of give a little bit of backstory, but obviously we met through Olame, and the conversations that we had, I feel like flew. They had just like this fluidity, if that's even a word, and it felt real. You know what I mean? Like going to the gym and just talking to you, and not even thinking of anything else other than the conversations that were going on. But we'll get into your story a little bit. But the thing that I, in this case, like admired about you was that you had this level of grounding, that you were able to still look at life and still be able to say that there are areas in life that you still want to work on and get better at.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I can appreciate that. And first and foremost, before we get into anything deeper, like, can you lead us in a prayer?
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
Can you guide us through, some of those practices of faith that you practice in your daily life?
For sure. For one, I want to say thank you for that, for acknowledging that, you know what I mean? Because, anytime somebody sees something within you, whether you see it within yourself or not, that's still something that, at least me, I don't take that lightly. So I want to say I appreciate you for that. But yeah, absolutely. I've never, like, nobody's actually really asked me to lead in prayer in a long time. Yeah, in a long time. Okay. So I appreciate that just in itself, for sure.
And I was gonna mention it before we even got here, but I was like, I wonder how he would react to it. Not to say it was like a test or anything, but it's something that I've always wanted to do. But every time that I got in the situation, it's no knock on people that I've interviewed or I talked to, but I didn't feel that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't feel it like in the moment. And I feel like with you, like we've had some really good conversations about, our faith and, what it's like to be able to go into that and what it's done for us in our time of life. So, I mean, I figured, hey, why not? And see what you say. So
I appreciate that, man, for sure. I'll never not pray.
This would be the first, bro.
And I appreciate that, man. I'll never like not pray. I'll never like decline and be like, nah, man, because there's no right prayer. There's no it's just praying from the heart. So
absolutely.
we can definitely pray. I'll definitely lead us in prayer. We can close our eyes really quickly and I'll lead us in prayer. Father God, in Jesus' name, I want to say for sure, first and foremost, I appreciate this opportunity. I want to thank you for my brother Fobs right here, just for, bringing us together, for opportunities, for us being in good health, for having a spirit of determination, for persevering, for things that we don't see right now that are going to come into fruition. I want to say thank you, Jesus, for being who you are. Truthfully, I want to say I appreciate this moment. I'm thankful. I'm grateful. And even though we're all in spaces of maybe being in places that we aspire to be in or might not be in, we look to you for guidance, for direction, for grace, to praise you. And ultimately, I want to say thank you. Sometimes it's not about what we can ask for or what we can do, but just to bring thanks to you. And I just want to say thank you for getting all of us this far and what you're going to do in our lives in the future. And there's greatness upon us. And I want to ask for your favor, for direction, and for guidance, and just for abundance. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Dang, man. Ooh.
Love, bro.
That's love. That's love for sure. Man, you set the bar. Like I will say that. Like I appreciate every word of that you shared in that moment. But no, I think it just says a lot about who you are as a person. You're not afraid to be who you are, and in every aspect from what I've seen. Which is an area that I struggle with in certain things, and I'm definitely working my way towards. But they always say like surround yourself around people that are in this case not even better than you, but have things that you want to be able to get to in life. Which again, a great compliment for you is the fact that you're able to carry yourself that way. But I gotta ask, man, like how did this all start? Like talk to me a little bit about your life growing up and what it was like to be Julian. Maybe when you were like 7-8 years old, to where you could understand what life was like and what was going on, and what kind of person you wanted to be.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm from the south side of Chicago.
Okay.
Born and raised. I played basketball my entire life. We've talked about our sports journey. And I think just generally speaking, I think what shaped a lot of who I am is, just my environment.
Yeah.
And in a large part playing basketball growing up and playing in the south side of Chicago. And I know people see what they see on the news and things like that. And a lot of times it does give a certain imagery and perspective of the city. And don't get me wrong, it's like that in a lot of aspects. But I think truthfully, and there's so many multitude of things I could touch on just in regards to that. But I think my environment shaped just having a spirit of persevering, a spirit of just knowing like, when I step outside, like it's a lot of things going on. That's just the reality growing up. And I feel like I like to be specific, but also general in the sense of like anybody that comes from like a major metropolitan city or comes from an inner city, our experiences might be different, but they're kind of the same in the sense of like you're exposed to a lot young. So it doesn't matter if you get involved in things or you don't, you're exposed to it. It's just up to you if you choose to like, delve into it or actually like submit yourself within it. I didn't. But I was around a lot of things. I saw a lot of things young, from maybe actually violence, you know what I mean? Gangs, drugs, things like that. But, my dad was in my life growing up. That played a part within it as well. But I think, just seeing certain things and having men, it's crazy that you asked that. One of my basketball coaches when I was in high school,
okay,
this was probably like the first person. This is older than being like, of course, this is kind of like when I came into adolescence. This was one of the first people that I saw that wasn't too far from my age, to where I was like, that's kind of how I want to be. Just as far as how he carried himself.
Yeah.
He was super smooth. He handsome. He carried himself a certain way. He was in shape. He was our assistant basketball coach. So we were like 16. He was like 25, 26. And just the way he carried himself, he kind of took me under his wing. But even to this day, I talk to him every now and then. But that was the person to where I was like, I like how he's operating. I see a lot of what I want within him, and I kind of like shaped and curated in a sense. Like I still stayed myself, but I saw somebody who wasn't that much further than my age range. It was like, okay, that's kind of how I want to, you know what I mean, operate.
That's so interesting, dude, because you know, at that age, kids like us that grow up, and I'll let you kind of like, we'll get into the part of, you know, you talking about your basketball journey, how far it took you. But, you know, people like us look at, you know, professional athletes and say, I want to be like him.
For sure.
And I definitely fell into that category early on. But like for you, for someone to really look at a coach like that and be like, I know that's how I want to be. You didn't even tie it to a title, which I think is amazing, man. Because I think we get so caught up sometimes by, you know, the limelight, how many people are, you know, liking the stuff, or how many people are wearing, you know, $1 million bag. But it really comes down to the core values, and for your basketball coach to be that it factor for you. I think that's amazing. That's beautiful.
I appreciate that. I mean, of course, you know, being younger, you do look at people who are, you know, who you might put on a pedestal, or who might be in a certain aspiration. Like, for example, Kobe has always been my biggest aspiration. But just in regards to like somebody that was tangible, that was somebody who was actually tangible, to where it's like we had daily interactions. So, you know what I mean? You're going to school, you're seeing your friends every day, you're seeing your teachers every day, you're seeing your coaches every day. This was somebody, and there were, of course, other people around, but that was the one person I was like, I see a lot of myself within him, but in an older state. And it's so funny, I'll give this story. So this was like my senior year. And it was it was me, one of my cousins, and one of our homies. And we were actually about to leave school and go downtown and probably go steal. I'm gonna just be honest. I'm gonna keep it all the way.
Appreciate the
honesty,
bro.
Yeah. Cause I mean, we were young. You know what I mean? Being young, being dumb, that's just what we were doing. So I remember being in a hallway, and we were they were out the door, and I was about to be out the door myself, and I just hear Julian, and I turn around, and there was an assistant coach, and he was like, check it out, I want to have a conversation with you. And it's crazy because I don't even know what class I was supposed to be in, but we went in a
midday.
This was like, I don't remember what time of day it was, but I know like I was supposed to be in class.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was senior year.
How old were you again? Or senior year?
Senior year. So I already knew what school I was about to go to. Like, I don't think it was senior ditch day. It was just, we were about to leave school. And he pulled me in a room. It was like the guidance counselor room. And he had a real conversation with me, just in regards to like, you know, again, I was probably like 16, I was like 17. And he was like 25, 26. Okay. And he played basketball as well. So he had a conversation with me just about basketball, like the seriousness that the mindset needs to be in. And then just also, and he was very honest just about women and just about focusing on yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not being so like, I mean, when we were in high school, handsome, you know, around your guys, you're flowing, you're doing your thing. Yeah. And so he was seeing a lot of like things that I was doing. And he was like, you know, I understand where you are, but you'll get to, and I think about this, I'm 31 right now, and I think about this all the time now. He was like, you know, you're going to get to a place in your life to where you're not worried about the stuff that you're worried about right now, to where you really lock in and you elevate. And he was telling me this at 16, 17. Yeah. And it was like, it wasn't like it went one ear out the other. I received it, but I was too young to really understand the severity of what he was telling me. And of course, I'm closer to his age now than I was then. And so it resonates. He was
26 at the time, right?
Exactly. So he was already in his journey of manhood.
Yeah.
I was an adolescent. So he was giving me gems, and he was really planting a seed, but it germinated and it's really manifesting at this point. And I think about that because I'm like, wow, I could have been out the door. And we might have never had that. No, I told them because they were out the door and they were looking back. And I was like, go ahead. Yeah. And we went in the room and had the conversation. And it was like, you know, I think about that to this day. So not to be too long with it, but you know, it was something that was very, very essential, just in the sense of that's something I still think about today. Man. And I was on my way out, you know what I mean, out the door to just go do I don't know what.
Would you agree or disagree if it was anyone else that you could have walked out with your homies at that time?
Truthfully, like,
was it the fact that it was him because you knew what kind of weight he carried for you in your life? You know what I'm saying? And with him having, because the way I think about it is this, is like, at that age, you can't have someone too far in age because you're gonna be like, you don't get me.
Absolutely.
Like, you don't understand what it is that I'm doing right now. It's too long for you. But you have someone like him who isn't too far and who is still able to like really get you and understand what's going through your head and not talk to you like a dad, talk to you like a brother.
Absolutely.
Do you think all that had to play in a part of with you going with the homies or not?
For sure. That's a good, that's a good question. And that's a perspective I've never thought about it, from. But truthfully, I think if anybody had stopped me, I would have, like, I was never defiant. Yeah. So you know what I mean? I was never like the kid to where it's like, I'm going to wave off an elder or somebody older than me and just be like, I'm out. So let's say if anybody has stopped me, it could have been a security guard, principal, teacher, whomever, I would have still went back. Yeah. But I don't know if I would have like listened with the fortitude that I did at that moment, because I'm literally talking to somebody who's like, I looked at like a big brother. Whether he knew that or not, that's how I viewed him. So I was really locking into what he was saying. So had it been somebody else, I might have just been like, man, think about where my boys are. You know what I mean? Like, where are my boys? You know what I mean? They left school. I'm still here. You know what I mean? I stayed back. But because of who he was, I was locked in. I was locked in. So regardless of who it was, I would have stayed back more than likely.
You're going to be respectful. Of course. Listen to what they have to say. And then it's going to be, did they say every word that I needed to hear that was right to be able to make the decision for me not to go?
Exactly.
And I think in that moment, people, it's hard for people because not a lot of people are able to like make that impact through touch or through, voicing out what opinions should be heard or shouldn't be heard or how to be able to deliver a message. And in that moment, it sounds like he said everything right for you, dude.
Yeah. And
it really sounds like that.
No, he did, man. And I think, what you said was very vital in the sense of like, and sometimes it is like age range in regards to like you want it to be somebody that's closer to age. But I think really what it is meeting people where they are. And I think a lot of times adults forget like you were that age. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we know how it feels to be 16. Somebody doesn't know how it feels to be 24, 25, 26 at that age, but we know how it feels to be that age. Yeah. So even when I was working at the gym, you know what I mean? Sometimes I would see, teenagers come in and do certain things, and I would watch adults look at them a certain way. And I would think, and I'd be like, wow, it's unfortunate when somebody gets to a place in their life to where they forget that they were at that place once. Yeah. You know what I mean? Now, certain people might not have been as, as outwardly, I don't want to call anybody bad, but just outwardly showing certain things as other people at an adolescent age. But, you can never forget you were 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, they're going to do things that are like weird and off and quirky. And it's just like, oh, all right, come on. That was kind of annoying. But at the same time, it's like, nah, meet them where they are. Have a conversation with them to whereas if you were that age, you would want somebody to speak with you with a certain level of respect and also give you game. So that's just how I look at it. And it's like, even now when I see certain things, it's like, all right, yeah, it might seem off, but I know how it feels to be that age. And I never want to get to a place to where it's like, I'm pointing the finger more so than it's like, hey, check it out. Let me give you some game. Let me put you on something.
I think, like you said, I don't know if those are your exact words, but you got to meet them at a level I.
Absolutely.
And I think I remember hearing that from, I don't know who specifically, but coming across it sometimes too on some podcasts, but you hear always about the people that are able to not only talk to, let's say, the adults in their age or in their generation, but to be able to be level-headed with some of these kids or teenagers that are in the works of becoming, in the U.S., an 18-year-old is a man. It's considered a man. And it's like, you got to bring yourself down here because some of these kids aren't going to take, straight, talking from them from straight experience. And I think sometimes I struggle with that too, because when I talk to somebody that, has 20, 30 years plus on me and they're talking down to me like this, sometimes I catch myself being like, dude, come on now. Give me a little bit of respect. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been living this life too. Like,
absolutely.
And I think one thing that I do miss about, having a direct impact, let's say with these teenagers that, being your age when you're in that situation was, when I first got here, I was working at the Boys and Girls Club in Maryville. I don't know if you've ever been to Maryville.
No, I haven't.
It's poverty, bro. Okay. Like, it's just a bunch of, minority, lower class people that, are just trying to make it in life. And I really hit with that because growing up, my mom and dad, they were middle class. We weren't well off, but we were, we got by. We had, I'm sure they had some months where they were barely getting by, but we always went to the low poverty schools. So all my friends definitely didn't have as much as I did. And then I had the friends that had a little bit more or maybe more. Okay. But I got a good blend of like friends that had dads in gangs and that had the families that were, straight up just doing the wrong thing. And then I had friends that were just too good, scared to get in trouble. So it was a good blend. But working with those kids, I did basically kind of like how you just talked about it. I would meet them at their eye like, hey, why are you doing that?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what are you trying to accomplish from it? Honestly,
For sure.
like,
For
you know,
sure.
you want to be this kind of way. That's cool. You want to be a basketball player. You want to play sports. But why is it that there's always stereotypical basketball players or baseball players that act that type of way? Why can't
sure.
you be different?
For
You know, be
sure.
better than I was. And I'll tell,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll get them with my mistakes. Like, I'm venting them with like, hey, this is what I did and this is what I did wrong. And you don't have to do that.
sure.
It's a choice for you.
For sure.
And I always left it to them like, it's your choice. You know, make the choice that you feel like is best suited for your environment or for what's going to be best for your situation. And then come back and talk to me. And if it's a wrong choice, we're gonna have a conversation either way because it's not aligned with what I want here in my club. Because you're coming into my area and you're making it bad for not only yourself but for everyone else in here, dude. That's not cool.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
I think it's huge to be able to have someone like that in your life.
For sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's essential, man. And I think just in regards to just communicating with people just in general.
Yeah.
I think it's about meeting them where they are. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, we had a conversation about this and I've even had conversations with myself in regards to like, you know, not like just forward movement just in regards to my life. And it's like, I feel like one of the gifts God has blessed me with is being able to communicate with anybody. I feel like I can talk to anybody. I don't care who it is. It could be an elder. It can be somebody of a different ethnicity, a younger person. I don't like it doesn't matter. I feel like, but I think the way to do that is literally being able to meet them where they are. And I think actually having a spirit of that person knowing that you actually care. I think that's the biggest thing. Whether you're speaking to somebody that's younger to you or older than you, somebody can tell just based off, and everything is spiritual, but people can tell. And to go back to your question when you asked, you know, why were you receptive to, or what you might not have been receptive to, you know, my coach who was speaking to me, I knew that he cared.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Yeah. And I knew that even though I was younger, I knew that he took me under his wing. He wasn't doing that to everybody. You know what I mean? He wasn't doing that to all the players on the team. I was really, and even some of my teammates would be like, such and such, like my coach, they said my coach's name and they would be like, man, he's always talking to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's always pulling you to the side. So people can see that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's also favor and that's grace. And that's something that I don't take lightly at all. But I think the biggest thing is again, people knowing that you care. Once people know that you care, and that's why I said I don't like kids aren't bad. People aren't bad. People sometimes just, or most of the time, just feel like, man, nobody loves me. Nobody cares about me. And it's not being shown. So they act in a certain way. But if they come in contact with somebody that's like, how you were saying, like, hey, check it out. What's going on? What's really going on? Like, look me in my eyes. What's going on? How do you feel?
Right.
Like, why are you operating like this? Like, speak to me. They can feel if you care or if you're about to like talk crazy to them, or if you, and that's any on any spectrum. And so I think that's the biggest thing. And I think, at least for me, communication wise, that's my biggest thing, is just being able to communicate with people in the sense of like, yo, even if I don't know you, I want you to know I care. One, with the love of Christ, but also as a human. No, like, we're all people. We all want love. We all want care. Like, it's a normal thing. But we've gotten so far away from that, just from a societal standpoint. You know what I mean? Everything is so divisive. You know what I mean? People, time is moving fast. Everything is self, me, buy. And it's like, it's nothing wrong. I have on my hand, abundance. We're supposed to live abundantly. Thank you. We're supposed to live abundantly. But at the same time, nah, what's going on? How are you feeling? What's on your mind? You're not by yourself. I love you. I care about, like, that's normal. But we've gotten so far away from that to where it's like, now everybody has a shell. And all that is just a defense mechanism for, I don't want to be hurt.
Yeah.
And it's normal, but it's like, nah, man. And I think that's just I know for sure that's one of my gifts, is being able to communicate with people. So.
You can tell it right off the bat, dude. You come with like a big, I don't even know how to explain it, but like, it's like this big bubble of love. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's easy to look, you know, physicality wise, like the looks, like you're obviously, you know, you take care of yourself, you dress the part.
Thank you.
But sometimes that can be kind of, what do you call it? Intimidating for people.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So
it
can be intimidating for whoever, you know, black, yellow, blue, red, whatever you want to call yourself.
For sure.
But then you start talking to you, and it's just like completely all the assumptions that you have in your head out the door. Because it's normal. You're going to have your pre-assumptions, and it is what it is. But for you to get to the point to where you're having a conversation with someone, that you already won. You know what I'm saying? You're giving the person the chance. So I do believe you when you say all of that stuff. And I have another question for you.
Yeah.
You know, so back to you, you know, you ran out of that that time, when you're leaving school and whatnot. Talk to me about what it's like, really growing up, the good, bro. Because I'm very optimistic. I like to hear like the good of what came from growing up in a environment like you did. Because from what I grew up in a very small town, as family oriented, but to grow up in somewhere like Chicago, like you mentioned, like it seems like there's some love there though, dude. Like there's a community, like it's tight. There's a lot of culture. Like tell me about like what were some of the pros of being able to have that environment?
Yeah, for sure. Well, for one, I would say, a lot of things that people might look at as, coming from an environment where you might not have, or where things aren't, necessarily what people are used to, are things that, at least for me, have been flipped for the advantage of my life. And I think a lot of people look at it that way, in the sense of, like, let's say, for example, we call it heating, right? So like heat, like joking. Like, so, so like in Chicago, it's called heating. But a lot of times it comes from a place of like, you know what I mean? You might not have something, your friend might not have something, but you know how to joke about it. You know what I mean? So I think in senses like that, and I'll go to other topics as well, but it's more so about like, man, it's built like a tough skin for me. Like I truly feel like there's nothing that can stop me. I feel like there's not too much I haven't seen. There's not too much that is like that I'll be shocked from, just from, being in Chicago. And of course, yes, there's love. Yes, but it's a real environment. Like it's a very real environment. And I think from that, it's built, and it's giving me a Teflon skin to where it's like, there's not too much. Like I'm not gonna easily be swayed. I'm not gonna easily be, you know what I mean? Like dwindled. And I think that's one of the biggest things, at least for me, subsiding everything is like, I genuinely feel, and with knowing God and being on my walk, there's like, bro, even not to diverge too far, but anytime we've run into each other, I've been dolo. I've been by myself. You know what I mean? I'm by myself. You have been, you know what I mean, as well. We run into each other.
What's dolo though?
It's like solo.
Okay.
It's just solo, like solo dolo.
Why dolo? Oh,
and I'm saying in the sense of like, I don't feel the need to like have to like be around a whole bunch of people or like, you know what I mean? I walk, like, of course, like I have no problem like linking up with people that are on with like attainment that are on the same path, but I'm by myself. You know what I mean? If I need to go do something, I'm by myself. If I'm going to work out, I'm by myself. If I need to go, like, if I'm traveling, like I walk the path of like, and that's fine. You know what I mean? It's fine. But I say all that to say, I get that from being in a certain environment to where it's like, you have to know like, okay, we might not be able to like stop at this bus stop because there's some real stuff going on, or when we drive, don't go to this gas station, go to this gas station, or it's a lot going on right here. We're not gonna walk this block. We're gonna walk this block and then turn here and go down that block. Or we like from growing up in the inner city. So it's just having a certain awareness. And now when you get older, that just carries to like a self-reliance that a lot of people, don't have. You know what I mean? And I thank the city for that. And I know I kind of went in a lot of different pockets.
Would you say that, like you talked about, you knew what areas to turn and what areas not to go to? I mean, for the people out there that haven't experienced life in a sense of like going to some of these major cities because of all they hear about is like, I'm not saying the statistic's true, but it's like Chicago has the highest crime rate in the nation.
For sure.
But it's like you mentioned, it's like anywhere you go, where to stay away from and where not to go.
And absolutely.
Is that how it is? Because there's got to be some decent parts in Chicago where you're just like, hey, so and so, like, you run into a clerk at a gas station that like they know you by name.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's anywhere that you are. Like, I mean, here in Arizona, like, you know what I mean. Regardless to where you are, somebody growing up, let's say, in maybe West Phoenix, it's different here than where we are right now, but I'm pretty sure like they're operating in the same space. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot going on here. We're going to go get slushies from this place. Or we're going to walk here to get our white t-shirts. But we're going to wait later to go get there. It's just adapting to your environment. And that's all it is for real. It's no different than the animal kingdom. You just adapt to your environment. But I think the resilience that you gain from these environments is something to where if somebody has a more plush life, you might not go through as much trauma, which could be a little bit better. But at the same time, when life hits you and you haven't been through certain things, it can fluster you to whereas somebody who's grown up in high pressure environments, other things just don't fluster them. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of people that have gone through things and everybody's situation is different and have moved back to their hometown. I made a vow to myself when I left, I'm never going back. and maybe I'll go back to visit, but not to live. But that's and we all go through things. So it's not like I haven't gone through things since living here in Arizona.
No, for sure.
But it's the mindset of, for one, I made it out. I didn't make it out through sports, but you don't have to make it out through sports. When you make it out, you made it out. You made it out. It's a result. But once you get to somewhere that's better, you've essentially made it out.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of times people go through things and they're like, it's getting pressure. It's a pressure situation. Let me go back to comfortability. But it's being able to like persevere and have a determination through that wherever you are, and then make it on the other end to where it's like, now that's what it's about. But to go back to where it's easy, where you know everybody, your family's there, your friends are there. Not saying that's not a real thing, but it's like, how bad do you want it?
No, I understand that completely, dude.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I had this conversation with my parents this past weekend or the weekend before, and I told them, I'm like, talking to my mom, and we're having the conversation around like, would you ever move back home? And I probably said it with a little stern, and was like, I'm never moving back home. I was like, I don't care how bad it gets over here, you know, knock on wood, you know, shout out to God, like hopefully nothing happens on my job, something happens, but I will find a way.
Absolutely.
Like I'll work 3 part-time jobs. I am not coming back home. And she kind of took offense to it, which as she should. You know, it sounds like, you know, you don't want to be around family, because I'm a big family man, but it's not about the family. It's about what you just mentioned. I did so much to get over here, and regardless if my spoon was a little bit more, you know, gold or silver plattered compared to yours, like I still did a lot of things on my own, you know, to get to the part. And I think one issue that I have with society nowadays is we're always focusing on who had it the worst, and who got to the situation.
Absolutely, I agree.
Not even first, but like to where they're at with the worst situation possible. And I'm like, why does it matter? You know, and I look and I understand, because I was that same person where it was like, why does this person get this? Because their daddy was this. And it's like, maybe they're raised to be, you know, a hardworking person. But back to my point is the fact that it's all about making yourself better each day.
Absolutely.
And I can't do that if I'm at home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's just certain things that I cannot do to continue to get better at if I'm at home. And I'm sure there's, you know, some same with you in some of that truth. But like everything you mentioned, dude, it does tie back into the fact of continuing to grow. And that kind of seems like the theme of where this conversation is going. So I'm gonna hit you with another question. You know, to say how it is, like, you know, growing up, you know, black. Now, what were some of those adversities that you struggled with, you know, growing up, and that you really had to overcome? If you feel comfortable talking about it, we can go a different way. It doesn't matter to me, but like, talk to me about that, because I don't know what that's like. And the whole like purpose of this show is obviously being blessed, humble, determined, but it's also talking about the real shit that happens.
Absolutely,
man. Like, really, what's going on in this type of environment for people, and in this case yourself, since we're talking to you.
I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, and it's crazy you asked that, because I was just watching this interview on Derrick Rose, and you know he just retired. He just retired, but
officially he retired.
I
didn't know that.
Actually, he just retired. He made a post about retiring. But he was on this show, the Math Hoffa show, and he was talking about how he was young, and he was like, you know, I had so much confidence, like young. He was like, I had so much confidence young, I just didn't outwardly show it. He was like, I thought it was like a sin how confident I was, in a sense of like how, but he just didn't show it. He was always so laid back, and he was just like, you know, that's why I was just so calm. He was saying this. That's why he was saying how he was just always, which this is just his personality. He was like, you know, I've always just been so calm and relaxed, and that's why I've just felt the need to, like, you know, be there for other people and help other people, because I've had so much confidence that it was like I have too much confidence. I just don't show it in an outwardly way. And when he said that, I really resonate with that. And to answer your question, like, I mean, for one, Chicago is a very segregated city. So, like, you know, black people are usually by and large on one area. I mean, you kind of blend, but it's not like New York to where you're going to school with just a blend of people. Like it was black people. We had a few white people who went to art school, and then like Mexicans. So it wasn't like, it was pretty much like minority, but I never felt anything to where it's like, oh, I'm a minority, I can't make. Now I've always just had like a certain inwardly confidence to where it's like, whatever I want, I'm going to go get. Like I've always had that, you know, and I understand everybody has things that they deal with internally, but that's just never been something that I've ever like, it's never resonated with me. I've never looked at like, skin color or just anything and been like, oh, woe is me, or I can't do it because of this. Like, I've never felt like that. You know what I mean? I just, and I always say this jokingly, like, at least with my friends, I've been like, I'm colorblind. Like, truthfully, like, I feel like that. Like, I don't look at people's, like, I really don't. I think that's the dumbest thing in the world, is to look at somebody's color on their skin, which they have no control over, and to judge them over. Like, that's ignorance, that's hate, and that's not of God. Like, truthfully, that's the wildest thing. That's true. And so I say that to say, like, I've always just had a certain inward confidence to where it's like, of course it was with basketball. That's what I did for the majority of my life into college. But from that standpoint, that's where it took me. So everything more so was sports based. So it was basketball. That was it. So there was nothing to where it's like, oh, I'm going to be hindered because of this or that. Like, that I just never felt like that. And I know maybe certain people might have in the space of just life itself. Yeah. But I've never ever once felt like, even to like, I never feel like that. I think more so than anything, it's it's how you carry yourself. I don't think it's like, and yes, people have prejudices and people can't be racist and things like that, but I could be in a room full of racist people. You wouldn't know because you're not focused on. Yeah, I could tell. It's not like I wouldn't be able to know, but and that's to say I wouldn't care, but I would still look at it like, you're not gonna stop me. Like, there's like, the only person that is gonna stop something is Jesus. That's it. He's either gonna bring it into my life or stop it from happening. But no man or woman can stop anything from happening. Either you're gonna be used as a vessel to help me, or you're going to be used as a vessel for me to use it as motivation to be like, you try to stop me, I'm going to still overcome it. So there's nothing that's going to stop me ever. Like, that's just always how I felt. That's how I feel to this day. I'm going to always feel like that, like I'm unstoppable. And I think everybody should walk with that mentality to where nothing can stop you, because there's no different from me having this mentality than anybody else having this mentality. You can have this mentality. Anybody can have this mentality of, I'm unstoppable. Anything that I want, I'm going to work for it. I'm going to pray for it. I'm going to make it happen. It's that simple. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. So why do certain people have certain things and other people don't? Yeah, certain people were at a disadvantage maybe from where they were born or where they grew up. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to be like, I want this.
And it's not too much. You can't continue to focus on things that are outside of your control.
You can't do that.
You know what I mean? It sounds like you're a pretty unproblematic person. Like growing up, like it sounds like you were just kind of like going with the flow. It seems same with basketball. Like you'd hit those adversities and you would just be like, it's just not on my path. Yeah. Which is pretty cool, man. Like you don't meet, many athletes like that. I feel like everything's very transactional, growing up as a young athlete, which
for sure,
as it should be. You make your mistakes, you do what you do, but you don't figure that out until like the back end of your career, until once you slowly start, coming down to realize that life isn't all about, sports.
Absolutely.
So to be able to understand that at a young age, I feel like really puts some depth into you. And my reason, which I'll say, is like, I find that the people that know how to communicate with others, regardless of what they look like or how old they are, it comes down to the stuff that they've been or seen at a young age. And it doesn't have to be always the negative stuff, or has to be the stuff that's adversity. It's literally just having depth to be able to understand, hey, I'm a person in this room who I may have a good life, but not everyone in this room has a good life. And I'm okay with being able to go up to somebody and not judge them for not having as much as me.
For sure.
That's how I see depth. I don't see depth as something that's like, oh, well, I was almost murdered this time, and then I got jumped this time, and then I was able to, come out the mud and then be able to make some money when I was poor and living on the box. Like, no, that's great and all, but let's be honest, majority of the people right now aren't living that type of situation.
For sure.
So I really try to tie it into that. And when I step into a room, I'm like, it's pretty cool to think about, but I'll step in a room at a conference or something. I'm like, all these people have different stories, and I just want to be able to listen to them, or like be able to tell them or ask questions. And it brings me here because I'm very interested to hear all this kind of stuff, dude. Like Uber drivers, there's this Uber driver who's driving me home from the airport on Sunday, and very serious guy. He had like a serious type of personality, and I was like, sometimes I hit or miss with those type of people because I'm very casual. I like to crack a joke or whatever. And I get in the car, and he's like, "Hey, are you a baseball player?" And I'm like, yeah, I used to play in college, man. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, "Oh, that's cool." So I used to play professional, whatever. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. What'd you play? Soccer?" He was telling me how he went to a club in Germany, a club soccer program from 4 to 18, and his dad took him out at 18 years old to put him in a college. Okay. And he went and got a degree at Princeton. And he basically said that he resented his dad for taking him out because he was this close to going pro.
For sure.
And I asked him, I was like, do you regret the decision? Do you regret going to college? And he was like, I never thought about that, but no, I don't. Like, and I was like, do you still have resentment towards your dad? And he was like, no, we were able to get over it a couple years ago. I'm like, bro, you won.
Yeah.
I'm like, you literally won. You did everything in your power. Like, the fact that you went to college and you got that degree, that says a lot about who you are, because somebody would easily quit.
For sure.
Somebody could have easily just been like, hey, why are you doing this? This isn't your dad's dream. This is your dream. Go out and do something better, where maybe your dad knew what was best for you.
For sure.
So I think of stuff like that, bro. And it's heartfelt when you're able to have these conversations with people, because everyone has something to say.
Absolutely. Now, we all have a story, man. Like, everybody has something that they're going through. Everybody has something that, like, you know what I mean, they want to, like, aspire towards. But I mean, to kind of allude to what you were saying, my cousin and I, we have a lot of, like, real deep conversation. Well, I don't want to say deep. I think it's normal, but a lot of times people might interpret it as deep. But I was like, one of the things when I look back on certain things that I'm thankful to God for is, like, foresight. And what I mean by that is, being young, and regardless to if I was exposed to certain things or wasn't, I've always had a certain mentality of being able to see certain things and being like, I like that for myself. I'm going to apply that to my palate and add it. Or I don't like that for myself. I don't want to live like this. I see certain people living a certain way, and it's never to judge because I'm around it, but it's just to be like, I know this isn't what life is about. And I say that to say, even when I was young, I always was like, I want to live in California. I want to live in Cali, palm trees, mountains. There was just something about that resonated with me.
Okay.
And after I graduated from college, I went to go live in Cali for a little while. And it was cool. I got that experience. Now, Cali is super expensive, but I got to get that experience. But now, being in Arizona, it's like, it's California-esque.
Yeah.
So it's still within that realm.
Yeah.
But even before ever going to California, I just knew palm trees, mountains, because I always looked at that like better living. I looked at it as abundance. I looked at it like it's a certain, and before I ever experienced it, just seeing it on TV, I would see it and be like, I like how I feel when I see that. When I would see movies of California, when I would see palm trees, when I would see the beach, and I would always watch TV, and I would be like, when I would see it, I'd be like, yeah, I like that. And I say all that to say, like, sometimes people could see that, or people see that, and they're just like, oh, okay. But I saw that, and I was like, nah, I want that for myself. And I think even in that's a gift, in the sense of having foresight to be like, I want that for myself. Because you can experience something and then be like, oh, I like that. I want to go double back on that, or I want to continuously experience it. But what if you've never experienced something and you see it and you're like, yeah, that's for me. That's something that's a little bit different. You know what I mean? That's a different inward, operation. And I think, when I like, the reality is this, man. I truly believe this. Favor isn't fair, but God has his hands on certain people's lives. You know what I mean? And it's like, when that happens, like, I truly believe like it's regardless to anything, it's already written. You know what I mean? But certain people just have faith, like favor and grace over their lives. And when that happens, like, there's nothing that can be done. Like you can't, like, there's nothing that can stop it.
No.
Literally the only thing, an entity that can stop it is God himself. That's it. And I look back on certain things and I'm thankful to God, and I continuously pray that he keeps favor in his hand over my life, because like, that's the guiding point.
Yeah.
Like, that's it right there in itself. And even just being young, being more older and more mature now, it's like, I don't ever want to not be within God's grace or favor. Truthfully, I don't. Sometimes we might stray away, but I never want to be outside of his favor or his grace, because like, that's our leading point. That's our direction. And so, man, I think that's my biggest thing. Is just, it's always been inwardly for me. Like, just knowing, like, having a certain, and again, there's a fine line between being confident and being cocky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think it can teeter, especially with sports, and we've spoken about this as well. But I think when you can back it up, it's confidence.
Yeah.
It's confidence.
Absolutely.
When you can't back it up, that's when it becomes cocky. When somebody's doing something and they're outwardly expressing certain things, but it's like, yeah, but I can't see the fruit of where this is coming from. Like, where does this fruit bear from?
Yeah. There's no focal point.
Exactly. Then it's like, yeah, you're just cocky. But when you see somebody operating in a space of diligence and hard work and determination, and they might have a certain bravado about themselves, that's just confidence. Yeah, and man, you need that.
It's the 3 C's, the way I see it.
Okay, yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I'm in my Instagram bio, I have confidence and cockiness. are two different things.
Absolutely.
And those two things are like, I've been in both scenarios.
For sure.
You know, I put myself in both scenarios to where I saw completely different outcomes, and
Absolutely.
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
But you know, the third one would be conviction. And, you know, they talk about it in the Bible all the time. Like,
that's real.
You know, there's one difference between confidence and cockiness, and it's the overhead arching of the conviction, the knowing of what is.
I like that. Yeah.
And once I really started understanding what the word conviction meant, and this was in college, bro, I was like 20, so I was late already. I was like 21, 22, but not as late as some other people to understand what that means.
For sure.
I checked myself hard because I'm like, this whole time I thought I was living in this confidence mindset, and like, you know, I'm showing up to, well, not even just sports, but showing up to be the person that I know I'm going to be, or I'm going to be, or I want to be. And it was all out of pure insecurity and cockiness. And it was like, I wasn't grounded in the values that I said I wanted to be. It was, I wanted to be a certain person that had the end result of what a true human, you know, male looks like. Absolutely. Or what a successful man looks like.
For sure.
And I was missing that conviction part. So once I retracted that, and I was able to look at myself in case, you know, inward.
Absolutely.
And understand really, what am I? Who am I going to try to live my best and stand by, you know, in my life? And that's where it came through the conviction of, you know, being blessed, humbled, and determined.
Absolutely.
3 things that wasn't new to me. That's what I was raised to be growing up. But I just didn't get that until, you know, I was that until a certain point in my life.
Yeah.
I lost that for, you know, 4 to 5 years during college. And then I found it again. And it's like a full circle, bro. Because like you said, you have your trials and tribulations. Absolutely. You have your times where you fall off. But are you going to get back on?
Yeah.
That's bigger than anything, man. That shows true character. If you are able to get back on after getting knocked down, like, that's really what I consider somebody as a true person of living up to what it is they have, you know, what God has for them.
Yeah. And it resonated with you. That's the biggest thing.
Oh my
you know what I mean?
dude. Yeah.
For sure. And I think that's a big thing too. And I think, honestly, you need to go through experiences to like really have understanding. I think sometimes it can be mitigated by somebody coming and giving you wisdom, and you being able to be like, okay, I see where I might need to. But sometimes you have to just go through it. But the reality is, sometimes people just keep going through the same test because, like you said, there's no conviction, or it doesn't resonate with them. And then they're wondering, like, why am I keep going through this? And it's like, well, you're not passing the test. It's the same in school. If you don't pass the test, what's going to happen? You're not going to go to the next grade.
Yeah, man.
You're going to have to get retracted or held back.
That's a good way to look at it.
So it's like, nah, you have to understand, like, it's all a test. And I think specifically for men, I think one of the biggest, and I say this from a self standpoint, the biggest thing for me when I really, because we're all on our journeys. We're all on our journeys. But I think for me, when I started to embrace suffering, when I started to embrace, like, okay, abandonment, certain things that have happened, things that maybe I could have controlled or couldn't control, but understood like it's part of the process, more so things that I can't control. Because if I can control it, I have to do better, because that's just specifically on me. But if I can't control it, whether it's things that have happened when being young, growing up in the inner city, abandonment, family not being there, whatever it could be, once you understand like this is part of the process, you have to go through it. If I say I want to, so I'll say this. 300 is one of my favorite movies. Okay. So Leonidas, that's like his character. Man, I love his character because of what he embodies as a man, as a warrior. He doesn't get there through a plush life. No. He doesn't get there through a harsh life. When he was young in the beginning of the movie, he was sent out into the wilderness. He came back with the wolf over his head. I mean, he didn't go out through abandonment. It was a push, but nonetheless, he still came back as a warrior. And I say all that to say, like, if I ask God to be a certain man, to be a certain caliber of a man, to see the imagery that I know I want to be, am I going to be able to obtain that through a plush life? Through not going through anything? Through no trials, no tribulations? Through not persevering? Through no heartache? No, it's already written, so it's already there for me. You had like, well, that's not a whiteboard, but let's say that's a whiteboard, and it has everything that you want on there. Yeah. But let's say it says you might lose a parent, you might lose friends, abandonment, you're going to lose money, whatever, like just extreme things. People will look at that board and be like, nah, I'm cool. I'm cool on that, because self-preservation is a normal thing as humans. We're not going to put ourselves in a line of fire. We're going to be like, nah, what's the road that I can get there? That's going to be less harsh. But if God says it's written and you can obtain it, but you're going to have to go through this. You're just going to have to go through it. Because if he tells you, you're going to be like, I don't want it anymore. But if you really want it, it's part of the plan. So I say all that to say, like, I think the biggest thing anyone can do is have the mindset of planning and being diligent and working hard, planning, having aspirations, praying, writing down what your aspirations are and working towards it. Now, we don't know what's going to come tomorrow. So that's where being able to adapt happens. It's just like, bro, everything I utilize is sports based. And I think sports is such a big thing because it's comparable to life. And we both play sports. We have practice, you have training, individual workouts, team workouts. But when you get on that field for the game, you don't know what's going to happen.
No.
So you planned for it. But what happens when you get on that field? You have to adapt to what's going on. You have to adapt to like the players. You have to adapt to the situation, adapt to the weather. Like you're adapting, but you plan. It's the same thing in life. Yeah. We plan for what we want and things might go as planned and they might deviate a little, but when they deviate, what do? We just adapt.
You adapt.
It's adapt. So it's no different if you're shortstop, if you're first base, if you're outfield, if you're pitcher, if you're it's all this. It's no different. You might have a play in the, what's the position when he's behind the base?
Oh, catch.
The catcher. Yeah. And the catcher might switch up and give you a signal, and it's like, oh, I wasn't ready for that. But he's peeped something, and it's like, okay, I have to adapt. It's no different. You know what I mean? It's the same in life. And so that's how I look at it. I'm gonna plan, I'm gonna work hard, I'm gonna stay in the gym, I'm gonna build myself to be the man that I want. But throughout life, there's gonna be things to where it's like, all right, I have to adapt. I have to maneuver a certain way. I might have to do this, I might have to do that. But you still plan, you just adapt. It's no different than sports. You know what I mean? It's no different. It's all applicable.
Perfect. Yeah, dude. No, I love the baseball references too. I know you watch it a little bit, so that's cool on all that. But I think looking at let's say the top national televised teams like Alabama. You got a team like Alabama who just lost.
Yeah.
And there's one time, like I wanted to watch this because the quarterback came from the school from back where I went to school, from college. Yeah. So it was a really cool win for them. And I'm looking and there's this DB for Alabama. And it's hard to put yourself in a situation like that because not once have I ever been able to sniff what it's like to get recruited by a number one team in the nation or have a culture like that, be able to come at you and say, we want you to play for us. But man, he was literally like 30 seconds left. You know how they take a knee to like secure the game or whatever, to ice it or whatever. Yeah. And the DB, bro, he's just yelling at his team. Like he's going off on all of Alabama's defense. And they plant the ball so that they can do one more take a knee. And he goes over there and kicks the football. And it's like, first thoughts obviously are like, dude, what is this guy doing? Like they lost. Like it's just accept the loss. But it's more than that. It's not just accepting the loss. It's the fact that they planned. They were up probably hours on end, training, working out, watching film. And that's just something that you got to expect here and there because he's never been in a situation where he's lost like that. And it's not okay to like be in a losing mentality, but you got to go back to giving grace to someone like that and just be able to say like, look, don't handle yourself. That's a learning lesson.
Absolutely.
But it's a big moment because how many times does a non-ranked team be a number one team like Alabama? It's once every blue moon, bro. Absolutely. Like it doesn't happen. Yeah. So to see that, you're automatically thinking it's back to the point of, you plan, it didn't work out. Yeah. You worked. And I think that's one of the biggest things about the failure, the fear of failure is planning, doing all the type of work that you can possibly do and ending up like that DB and just seeing none of that come out the way you wanted to come. And it sucks. It takes a wind out of you. It's the same reason why people say all the time, like, oh man, this person did this to me. So I'm just not I'm going to do that to them. And it's the same thing, dude. It's like, you got to give it a try. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to be able to make yourself go into that moment of like, I may have failed at this way or, I may have lost this game for us, but I'm going to still continue to strive for it. That's why Kobe's the greatest. Nobody talks about his failures. Absolutely. No, we could look at his tape right now and go back to all the times he missed that game-winning shot. Yeah. But nobody's paying attention to it. Yeah. So I think it's crazy. Is it really a failure or is it a lesson? There we go. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's only a failure if you let it like take you out to the point to where you're like, I'm done with it. Yeah. Then it's like, well, all right, you failed the test in the sense of you could have persevered through that. And then the present was at the end. So it's like, that's how I look at all of this. You know what I mean? Now, unless somebody's just willingly putting themselves in situations, that's something different. But if things are just happening through life and you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? You're taking L's in a sense, or you know what I mean? Certain hardships are happening, but you persevere through it. You're able. Now, I'm pretty sure we both can attest to looking back on certain things in our life to where at that moment we looked at it like a loss. Yeah. But through perseverance, we look at it like, oh, this is why I am the way I am now. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. And that's why I say when you embrace the suffering, when you embrace going through heartache and pain for men specifically, I'm talking about for men. Yeah. Like when you embrace that,
that's when you're really, I truly believe that's when you're really on your journey within, you know, curating yourself as a man, because a lot of guys run from it. They rebel from it, and you see it. Like, to be a man is psychological. So you can choose to be a man or you can choose not to. That's why you see certain guys with certain auras and certain presence, and you're like, wow, how is he like that? Well, he embraced the suffering and he became. And then you can also see certain guys and you're like, and it's no knock, but it's like, dude, you're still very immature. And we all have things we have to work on, but it's like you're just operating immaturely constantly. Yeah. Well, you just chose not to embrace or just to become. So it's really just a choice. And I think when you take on the operation of taking a choice and being like, all right, I'm going to become, regardless, I'm going to become that man that I want to become. I'm going to be who, if somebody sees me or if my younger self sees me or if anybody sees me, they're going to be like, something about him. There's something different about him. But where does that come from? When I watch 300 and I see Leonidas and he's commanding the Spartans and he's operating and he's talking to Xerxes and he's like, nah, we're not bowing down to you. We're going to fight. Where does that come from? That comes from suffering. When they're in real battle and he's on the front line, he's not in the back telling everybody else what to do. He's front lining with them. He's front lining. That comes from resilience. That comes from confidence. He wasn't cocky. No. That's confidence. But where does that come from? Him being out there by himself in the wilderness when he was a kid. You know what I mean? Him knowing like, no, I know I have this within me. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, man, that's why certain people have it, certain people don't. I believe anybody can become. But truthfully, I believe anybody can become. The only difference is are you going to choose to do it or not? Some people choose to and some people don't. Kobe, my favorite player all time. His resilience, his determination. It's not like everybody else couldn't wake up at 3-4 in the morning and get 4 workouts in a day, 5 workouts in a day. It's no. He chooses to do this. Others choose not to. There's nothing stopping you. There's nothing stopping anybody from doing what they want. There's nothing stopping from anybody being the man that they want, building the body that they want, obtaining the things that they want. Now, sometimes it might take a little bit longer. Sometimes you might need to seek help or seek certain things, but it's nothing stopping us. It's just certain people choose to not do it, and some people do, whether it's through heartaches, pain, and people are like, all right, I'm cool. I'm giving up. Or certain people are like, there's nothing that's going to stop me. The only way is through leaving Earth and transitioning.
Imagine how many people would stop trying to find that like secret formula, you know, and everything in life, like the secret formula to be, you know, let's say the Kobe athlete, or the secret formula to be the wealthiest man alive, or the secret formula to, you know, have good fashion, or to walk with confidence. Like if you just did, imagine like there are certain things where you don't need a plan. You just need to do.
You just have to do.
And it's nuts how fast you can see results. And not the end results, like the results of like the mindset switching completely in 2 seconds, bro, of like, regardless if you felt that confidence for 2 seconds, that was 2 seconds more than you didn't feel it a day ago. Or it's like, I felt it for 5 minutes. That was 5 minutes you didn't have that day before, the last week before that.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing that I think we can both attest to as well, is the small wins, the small like growth periods that we had in those times of defeat, or in those times of those learning lessons, is what you had to carry out the most, bro. Because if you weren't carrying out those small wins, there's no way you would have lasted a season.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of like where I want to switch gears with you, is like, I want you to talk to us a little bit about, you know, your success, or in this case, your career as a college basketball player, you know, going from high school to college, and what it was like for you, you know, to be in that situation, and what changed from, let's say, you know, high school Julian to college Julian to Julian who is now.
For sure. So initially I went to school in Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin Platteville, which is a D3 school. I went there my freshman year. I transferred my sophomore year to Eastern Illinois University, which is a D1 school. So even in D3, and I think just college itself, the game was just way faster. And I'm pretty sure with any sport, you know what I mean? Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, like anytime you go up a level, the game changes. It's way faster. The bodies are more developed. You're playing against guys that are now really, their bodies are as men now. Yeah. And so the game was faster. But I transferred to Eastern, and I knew nobody. Like the coaches didn't know me. I knew nobody. And again,
why'd you pick that school?
So funny enough, high school, we had a college tour. So like my junior year, to where we went to a few different schools, Western Illinois University, Eastern Illinois. We went to just a few different schools within Illinois. And I just wanted to get a different college experience. And I remember going to Eastern Illinois, and I was like, I like it. I like it.
Okay,
And so I enrolled. I got in. And I remember when I got there, people were like, they don't take walk-ons. Like, they don't take that. And again, it's all internal.
Watching me.
I was like, I don't care. Yeah. Like, that's what you believe.
Yeah.
That's what you believe. And I remember to this day, but I was still wearing my it was UW/Platteville. I was wearing but basketball. And I was doing it's all intentional. I was wearing that because it was like, I'm still a basketball player. So even though I'm at a different school, I wanted outwardly to be known that like I play basketball and that I'm going to achieve this. So I remember going to the coach's office and I was like, hey, look, basically like I'm trying to walk on. How would I go about this? And they were like, yeah, we don't really take walk-ons, but you can play in open runs with the team. That's all I needed to know. That's the ticket. That's all I needed to know. That's you can run open runs with the team. So what I did was I came back for like the summer, and I was like running open runs with the team, and I had enrolled in a class. And you know with like collegiate, sometimes like the coaches can't be there for certain things, so they can just watch, but they can't like verbally have conversations. But they would be watching from the top. Okay. And so I was running the open runs with him, and then during the school started, and so they had like rec leagues, and I was playing in the rec leagues, and I was like, I mean, this is when I was hooping for real. Yeah, I was going crazy in the rec league, and so I remember at the end of the summer, I went to the coach's office, and they were like, we're gonna allow you a spot on the team.
They were watching you at the rec leagues?
Well, a lot of the players were there on the record. Okay. Like the coaches weren't there, but a lot of the players
and they would
were
go
there. Yeah.
Like, hey, Julian's a real deal.
Yeah, but they were also seeing me, and I was cool with it. I was
on the open recs too.
Yeah, exactly. I was just making sure I was being seen. Yeah. But in the summertime, I was running with the players as far as in their open runs. By the end of the summertime, I remember going to the coach's office, and they were like, we're going to allow you to walk onto the team. Wow, man. And so I think, that's again, amazing. I appreciate it.
Like, you gotta let that sit in, dude. That's pretty cool.
I appreciate it. And I think, thank you. I don't want to let that go unnoticed. I appreciate you for that. But I think, again, that just goes back to like, man, nothing is going to stop somebody who doesn't want to be stopped. I don't care what it is, man. Like, everybody could be telling you, like, you know what I mean? You have a podcast, right? People could be saying, oh, it's oversaturated. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, the podcast market is oversaturated. Why is your podcast going to blow? It's like, no, I'm different. Like, you have to know within, like, for one, I'm different, and he that is in me is greater than he is that's in this world. God is on my side. So it's like really believing that. I mean, really, really believing that, and knowing like I ain't like, man, it's all spiritual. When you really believe like nobody can stop you and you're walking with that with intentionality, nothing can stop you. Literally, nothing can stop you. The only person that can stop you is you. Not saying it's not going to be long and tedious. I didn't know if I was going to get on a team. I knew I was, but in a sense, they could have been like, we saw you play, but we don't have any room. Like there was no telling what could happen. They didn't know me. You know what I mean? I came from an entirely different school. I came from D3. They didn't know me at all. It's not like they recruited me, and it wasn't like I was a preferred walk-on. They knew me from nowhere. I'm a student who just transfers to the school, says I want to be on a team, say where I was coming from, of course. I was at a different school, and given the opportunity, cool, that's all I need. I can run with the team, fine. Watch whenever you can. That's all I need is the opportunity. At the end of the day, because and again, not to be, I just get excited about this because it's like, man, like anybody can achieve what they want. But the thing is, it's like, man, I truly believe this. Like God rewards you when you persevere, when you're determined. Like everything is spiritual. There's no way you're not going to be rewarded if you're intentional. Yeah. If you could go to the gym every day and put in work, your body has no choice but to change. If you're eating right, if you're doing push-ups, sit-ups in the gym, your body has no choice but to sculpt. It has no choice. It's the same way as our life. Whatever your aspirations are, and I'm speaking to you and anybody, whatever it is, as long as you're intentional and you're putting in that work day in and day out, I'm not saying things aren't going to happen. Your podcast is going to blow up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude. It's no choice. You're putting in the work. You're being diligent. The layout is cold. Like there's no other choice, but it has to be in the mind. Like the only way this is not going to happen is if it's in God's will to happen. That's the only way it's not going to happen. Because if it's in my will along with God's will first, it's written.
It's written.
It's written, bro. It's already written, man. You know what I mean? And that should be motivation for anybody to be like, whatever, if it's in God's will and it's in your heart, because he says, ask for the desires of your heart. He knows the desires of your heart. Now, if it's something super outlandish and crazy and it's not in his will, then that's not in his will. But
there's, like you said, it goes back to the heart. It's like once you feel it, and I don't know, but like if there's things in your life, and I'm sure there are, but like when I do this, like when I literally sit down or I'm getting this stuff set up, like not once have I ever felt like, man, I got to set this stuff up. Man, I got to do this podcast. Dude, I get a tingling sensation. I've talked about this. I get a tingling sensation the same way I used to get a tingling sensation before I walked out on that mound, before I walk out in a high school football Friday night game to play quarterback, bro. Like I get that same feeling. And I have not been able to find that feeling in corporate America, which is, corporate America is for whoever wants it to be whatever it is they want to be. I know I want more.
Absolutely.
And I've talked about this. I'm like, I know my time is coming. It's just not now.
For sure.
And every time I do this, it's like, oh, bro, I get to get on and I get to really just hear somebody's story and be able to make an impact through this lens that's going to go out to whoever needs it at this time. And bro, you'd be surprised that some of the people who have listened to this, and I'm just like, hey, bro, you run that podcast on? I'm like, yeah, you you listen to it? And they're just like, dude, I loved it. Like, I've been, it really hit me. Or like somebody on TikTok will randomly just reach out and be like, hey, like I listened to that episode and it's amazing, man. And it's just, that does more to me than anything, bro. I don't care if it has 200 views. Like, the fact that the work that I'm crafting, and it's just like, it's a one-man team. Like, I don't work with anybody else. Like, the fact that I'm cutting this up, being able to edit it and be able to put it out to people, and I know and I believe in it. And it's not even me talking half the time. It's you guys. In this case, it's you talking, and it's you saying all these things. And we don't have a script to this. Like, we talked about that. Like, everything we're talking about right now is just a pure conversation of what is and who you are.
For sure.
So it's like, as toxic as, in this case, negative terms can be when it comes to, there's toxic people, there's toxic situations. There's just as much of that toxicity in people that are good and that can get out that message. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a blessing for sure, bro. And it's just, I appreciate you for being able to hop onto this because.
No, absolutely, man. Like, man, my biggest thing I always say is, like, personally, I don't get excited. I stay ready. And I say that in a sense to say, like, it's nothing wrong with being excited. It's just I like to stay ready. If you had said the day we ran into each other at the Nike store, hey, later tonight, you want to hop? I would have, let's do it. You know what I mean? You could have said later that night. It would have been like, cool.
I like
you know what I mean? It's like, let's do it right now. And I think that's the biggest thing is like, man, I think the biggest thing is really just staying ready. And because if you're asking God for things and your time comes,
are you ready?
You don't know when it's gonna come.
Are you prepared for rain? Have you read that one?
Are you prepared for rain?
That Bible story?
Nah. What's that about?
I mean, I'm gonna butcher it for sure, but basically, a God tells a fisherman. There's a fisherman, and then his two, I think it's his sons or his brothers, and he's telling them, God's telling him in his, through the ocean, through in his ears, like, hey, a storm's coming. Storm's coming.
For sure.
And there's been a drought for like, let's say years or months or whatever. And they're just like, there's no storm that's going to come and it's going to, flood the seas and it's going to bring the fish and it's going to bring the food. And he continues to keep telling them like, be prepared, be prepared. Well, the guy's just like, whatever. Like, I'm just going to, we'll see what else. So they take off and, God sends this flood, bro. Just fish come out of nowhere and he was ready. The fact that he got ready, God delivered to him what he prepared for. And it comes back to now, it's like, if you're not prepared for a storm, you're not gonna be ready. And even if it does come, you're still not ready. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's both ways. It's like, continue to do the work. Just because that, let's say scout, or in this case, just because that coach says like, oh, we're only giving you, not even a practice team, but like you can run with teams. Like be prepared.
Be prepared.
Be prepared for them to call your name.
That's
and
it.
You know how many people in that situation, bro, would have had the entitlement to say, well, I was starting 5 on my squad, at this school, but like, you're just going to give me this, especially now with the NIL, it's like, I'm going to go somewhere else.
For sure. Or would have just been like, I'm cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not, it's not a for sure, like, answer, or it's not a for sure, but it's that boils down.
What's for sure in life, bro?
For sure.
Like, honestly. NFL, not for long. Like, it's the same thing with life. Like, what is a for sure thing that's going to be, I don't know. We're not going to be here tomorrow. Who knows if we're not going to be here tomorrow? Who knows if we're going to have a job tomorrow? It's like, but what are we going to continue to do that's going to have the value of who we are as people?
No, that's very true. So I was watching, Have you seen it's King Richard, the Serena and Venus story
is that the
with
one
Will
with
Smith?
Will Smith? Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I love that
Bro,
movie.
so like, man, I watched it probably like a month and a half ago the first time. And like the biggest thing, the turning point in that movie to me was when, he was like seeking out trainers for his daughters. And he goes to the one trainer and he's like, my daughters are really nice. And all the other trainers were like, yo, you're crazy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? He was trying to work out situations with them, and he pulls up on the dudes who were training.
Yeah.
And he, like, the people who he was training, he told them to take a break. And the moment that Will Smith, who played their father, when he asked him, I just want you to see my daughters play, and that coach said, they have like 2 minutes. I'll watch it. That's all. That's it right there. The whole trajectory of the movie changed after that. Everything in the movie changed after that. After he saw them play, what did he do? He went to speak to Will Smith and he was like, I'll train him. But that's the thing. It's like, yo, some you have to take it for real. Yes, you have to be ready, but sometimes like you have to go take it. Like you have to take it in a sense of an opportunity. Yeah, but sometimes you have to take opportunities.
Absolutely.
Like, hey, look, walk up on somebody like, hey, look, I have this podcast. Like, I'm not, whatever it is. Hey, I just want you, let me just show you a clip of what I can do. Let me just show you what I've been doing. And they see it and they're like, hey, look, take my number down. Mm-hmm. That's all it like. And then your whole life can change after that. But what if they were like, well, what, you know what I mean? And it deters somebody from being like, well, I don't want to show them anymore. Yeah. It's like, no, you're speaking to somebody who you want to be speaking to. You're around somebody you want to be speaking to. I speak to any and everybody in the sense of just being just a person, but it's like, hey, look, this is what I have going on, because you never know. No, somebody could see it and be like, oh yeah, I like you. You know what I mean? Take my number down. And then your whole life changes after that. But it's like, you know what I mean? There's entitlement. There's people, I want it to be sweet. It's not going to be sweet. It's never going to be sweet.
Right time, right place.
But are you going to be ready though? Mm-hmm. Because when you're ready, once that opportunity comes, that moment comes, now you go for 40. You don't just go for 40 just because, it just happened. No, you were preparing. You were practicing. You were training. Before the coaches told me that, and I had a girl at the time, I was up every morning and I would go to the rec and I would work on my game by myself before coaches. But it's like, it's already within, man.
And you're not doing it for anyone else but yourself. You're not doing it to get the coach's attention of like, hey, I'm here early.
Yeah, no. They didn't know.
Right, it's intentionality in all of it. It's not, because you'll have those people that like, I'm going to show up early so that way I can look like I'm there.
Yeah, no.
And it's like, no, because you do that. When it actually comes down to who you are, the work's not going to be there for you to even show what's going on.
And your game is not going to be like that.
No, it's not. Yeah. So whereas you're doing it out of pure love for it, bro. You're there because you want to be there. Mm-hmm. And honestly, the want to be there with half skill is better than all skill and not wanting to be there.
For sure. And
I believe in that.
That's a lot of things. You see, and that was a great point, because you see that a lot in sports. You know what I mean? You see sometimes people that have great talent, but they just try to ride and they cut corners and they're like and they're you know what I mean? They're entitled, and it's like you want to switch that as quick as possible, because God will take your blessing fully for doing that.
It's back to the humble, bro.
You catch an injury or opportunities won't happen.
Man. It's strange.
I've seen it. I've seen it, and I'm pretty sure anybody that's played sports, you see, and just in life, but sports specifically, you see players with talent, and it's like, yeah, you're not operating with your blessing correctly. You're playing around with it. You know what I mean? Like showing up late, talking to coaches crazy, not fully working out, trying to cut shortcuts. And it's like when the game comes, the players know, and it's like, you wonder why you're getting taken out. You wonder why you're having problems with the coaches, because you're halving it for real.
Yeah, dude.
And so it's like, it's all internal, man. It's all internal. But I think that just transitions to how we're supposed to be as men. And it's so comparable, like sports. I always just refer to things as sports because
I feel you.
It's so comparable to life. And a lot of times we associate.
It's one of the greatest life lessons
for
people that don't know where to turn.
It is.
And we'll talk about men, just simply men, for like boys, young men out there that don't know where to turn. It's the easiest way to get yourself in check before you actually experience what life really is.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. With good coaching too. Because bad coaching could take people out the game as well, in the sense of like, a lot of times there might be coaches or situations to where, you know what I mean? And that's why, again, you hear players say like, I have to go to the right system. I need to be around the right coaching, because that's imparable. There are politics that come with, sports and things like that. But just generally speaking, man, it's imparable to how you operate in life, because like, man, how are you? how you are as an athlete is no different than how you are in other endeavors. Mm-hmm. It's no different. Like, I mean, if you're gonna do halfway things as far as training, you're gonna halfway things in your everyday life. Yeah. And podcasting and whatever endeavors you have, it's just transferable. Yeah. That's why Kobe, after he won an Emmy for animation and things like that. He ended up winning an Emmy, but anything that he was gonna do was gonna be great. Cause it's already within. It's not, and that's why when you see people and they're like, "How are you just great at everything that you do?" It's like, well, it's because it's inward. I'm gonna be great at everything I do. If I say tomorrow, "Hey man, I'm a skateboard," I'm gonna be one of the best skateboarders. Yeah. And I'm not saying that in a cocky way. I'm saying that because I'm gonna work diligently to skateboard. I did that with basketball. I was good at basketball. When I got into music, I was like, okay, that's what it's gonna be. So in anything, when you see somebody who's great, it's just transferable to anything they do. It's no different. But people also hate it. They get upset and they're like, well, why are you so good at everything? And it's like,
nobody wants somebody that's good at everything, dude.
Yeah, but it's like, but at the same time, it's like, well, they're not doing something that you can't be doing. Yeah. All they're doing is transferring that energy specifically to what they're doing, and they're wholeheartedly going into it and saying internally, I'm going to do what I need to do to be the best that I can be in this. Anybody can do it.
Half the time it's just leading with the having fun. You know, like back to the present moment is okay. Well, I think having fun, it can be a little bit more of like a cliche for people that don't understand like what that truly means to like its deepest root. But like having fun to me really means to be in the present moment, dude. Like you're playing those rec basketball games, or you're in this case for me, like I was playing in a rec softball tournament this past weekend. And, you know, I did pretty well. Like, I don't play very often, but, like, when I do, like, I put my all into it, bro. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that my dad taught me at a young age was, you know, you play a sport, you do anything in life, you better give it your all. Mm-hmm. You know, because that's who you are as a person. You give it everything you got, and you reflect, and you get better. And, you know, that's the way I play. Like, when it comes to sports, I throw everything on the line. I will risk my body. You know, I'll obviously in a smart manner, obviously in a calculated manner, but I am going to go all out 100%. Like I'm not walking on the field. I'm not walking off the field. I'm going to at least half jog, or I'm going to run on and off because I enjoy the game. Absolutely. Like I appreciate it because I've been humbled by what I thought I was bringing to the game. I thought I was bringing more to the game at one point than the game was bringing to me. And I mentioned that multiple times, and it humbled me and took it away from me very fast. And, you know, God told me, like, you know, you need to redirect so that way you can reflect on how you were treating this game. So that way it can come back into your life and be able to be something that you enjoy rather than something that you thought was a job that was going to make you some money.
Absolutely.
So bro, I played well, and everyone, you know, some of the guys that were playing with me were like, hey, bro, like you did amazing. You did this. And that used to go to my head. You know, when I was younger, like, I used to go to my head like, oh yeah, I'm that guy, like I'm him. But now it's just like, you know, no, thank you, like I appreciate it. Like it was, you know, a team effort first of all, but like most importantly, like it just feels good to be able to come out here and have fun doing the things that I'm doing because I'm presently here. I'm not thinking about what the end result is. I'm presently enjoying even the lessons, or in this case, the failures that I may have not done to be successful. So,
absolutely.
Nah, bro, it's amazing. Like you said, sports are an easy way to really just reflect and look back on things. But kind of to go back to like the whole like being a man type deal. Like, what are some things for you that you're really focused on? You know, doing for yourself, because 31, like we're a few years different in age, but I think you're in that different level than I am, because you're in your 30s, and they always say like your 30s, you really understand what it is, what you're doing, and what you want to, you know, seek out into. Like, what are some things that you're focusing on right now to continue to be that person, or to keep, you know, excelling?
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I think it's a forever going journey. Okay. You know what I mean? Just in regards to like, just specifically on the topic of just manhood. Cause I speak to, you know, older gentlemen that I have reverence for. And even, you know, men in their 40s, 50s, they're still, now they might have more wisdom in that sense, but they're still seeking in the sense of becoming the best man that they can. So I think it's definitely like a journey, but I think personally, and again, I think really just resonating with, you know, understanding, and I know I've been, you know, harping on it, but I think just understanding that, like, bro, you have to, when I say suffer, I don't mean it in a dangerous, crazy way. When I say suffer is, what I mean by suffer is like, you know, the trials and tribulations that, you know, you go through, that we go through as males, but in our manhood that only men could go through. You know what I mean? In the sense of like, maybe certain pressures that you feel, certain obligations, certain desires that you have, having to do a lot maybe by yourself, maybe not that many people being there for you. A lot of things that guys go through and maybe don't talk about.
Right.
But I think understanding that if you desire to be the man that you see in your mind, like you're gonna have to go through certain things. So I say that to say certain things that I go through in life, just trials, tribulations, ups, downs, like I resonate with the fact of like, okay, God, like this is for the betterment of me being the man that I want to be. A lot of times when I was like younger, I would look at it like, why is this happening? Why am I going through this? Or why did that happen? Or why was family not there for me? Or
Why?
Yeah, why? And it's like, it's a reasonable question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like you want to know why things happen.
Absolutely.
But I say that to say when I shift it to say, thank you. Thank you.
I like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for abandonment. Thank you for loss. Thank you for, and not saying it in a like, but saying it into where it's like, I see what it's developing me into. I see how I'm growing from it. I see how I have Teflon skin. I see how I'm able to like give other people encouragement or to be like, hey, you're not by yourself. Keep going. Keep like operating with determination. Like you're not by yourself. You're not going through it. You're not the only man going through that. Yeah. Like we all are. Like you're not by yourself. Keep going. Yeah. Like that only comes from being able to resonate with it and being like, thank you. Not being like, why is this happening? Like, you can't do that. Like, you know what I mean? As at a younger state, when there's less, mental fortitude, it's like, okay, but if you say you want to be the man that you want, and I say you as in general, it's like you have to say, okay, God, there's processes for everything, bro. You know what I mean? Like, again, to go to sports, there are tryouts. There's if you plant a seed, it doesn't just become the tree. It has a season of rain season. It grow like you have to have a process for everything that you go through. So that's just, for me, because there's so many specific things that we go through as men. You know what I mean? For me, it's just like being in the state of this is part of the process, whatever it might be. If it's something that's not out of my control, and even sometimes if it is in my control, and like you said, things happen, it's like, you have to adapt. Thank you, because all it is just building you. If we're still alive, if we're still here, which is by God's grace to see another day and to mature, it's supposed to make you better. Yeah. It should make you better. Don't let it break you. Now, certain things could affect you to just like, this might have affected me. That's understandable. We're human. And that's where healing comes in. You know what I mean? That's where seeking God really comes in. That's where seeking the Lord. That's where seeking Jesus really comes in, as far as being like, this is really affecting me. I need to heal. But at the same time, it's like, just keep persevering, keep understanding like whatever your aspirations are, things that happen, it's only going to be for the betterment of you being the man that you want to be.
Jeez. That's a lot to unpack right there, dude. I mean, everything that you said it's deep, and it holds so much value in it that there's no real like intricate follow-up you can say towards it other than like really process what's going on, and I think, the major thing that I see that you've talked about is just really being able to switch your mindset from the why me mentality to appreciating even the things that you may not like that are making you uncomfortable. And I think uncomfortableness is a great word for it compared to like maybe suffering. But I think we all tend to like want to lean towards the comfortability because it's safe, dude. It's so safe to be comfortable.
That's it.
I've gotten so used to, especially in this time of the year, like I struggle so bad that I love to be comfortable in this time of year because there's been some things, in life that have hit me in this time of the year that's made me want to be comfortable because I just didn't want to get out of the mindset of being like, damn, this actually sucks. Let me actually live in it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's huge to be able to continue to vocalize that. And I think it's great for a podcast because the more you talk about something, the more you actually like, not only just think it, but like you vocalize it, you talk about it with friends, you talk about it with people that you may not know. It's one step closer to like continuing to be a habit.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
I definitely feel that there are things that you can definitely use towards that in terms of being uncomfortable. And I think we all have our moments. We all have our moments to where we become type of invulnerable, or in this case, vulnerable towards the comfortability. And it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. And I think sometimes we just all need to hear that it's okay rather than, hey, don't do this. Stay away from this, where it should be, meeting them, level-eyed and just being able to vent with them and to have a conversation.
Yeah, and what you said, I think I like that a lot too, in the sense of you said comfortability, and I think a lot that could be a synonym or synonymous with suffering and being comfortable.
Yeah,
I think I like that because I think the biggest and I really like that you said that, because when I say suffering, I'm really saying you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
There we go.
And that's the thing right there. Is like a lot of times in uncomfortable situations, again, just speaking of for me, a lot of times guys will rebel against it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's understandable, because anytime you're not comfortable, it's like, it doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. But when you realize like, okay, solitude or just resting within the fact of like, all right, I'm going through this. Because you could get anxious, that's a part of being uncomfortable. You get anxious, but really when you like really think, and this is where like understanding comes into play, when you realize like, okay, when you can have that shift to be like, all right, I know who I want to be. I'm going to have to go through some things. Let me try to like sit within this uncomfortability and grow.
What can I really take from
this?
What
can I take from it? And I'll say this just to be very, very specific, because I like to be specific because that adds validity.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like when we met as well. My cousin and I had a spot, right? So we had a spot, and then I was going through a breakup. My cousin ended up moving, and I was moving into my own spot. Okay. In the midst of a breakup, moving into my own spot. I'm on an entirely different coast. I'm from the Midwest, Chicago. I'm on an entirely different coast. My cousin, he was there, you know what I mean? Shout out to my aunt, my uncle. But really nobody was really there. And I'm just being very honest, family-wise was there. So now think about this. Anybody that's going through anything, a breakup, a lot of times that'll take somebody back to home or comfortability. I'm in the midst of that, moving by myself. You know what I mean? Like that's a real, that could get tricky for certain people, because now let's say if somebody's in a space to where it's, and thank God, God has given me the spirit of determination and extreme drive, because not once did I ever felt like, oh, I can't leave home, or I'm just laying in the bed all day. But think about for people who have that, who might not have that drive, and then they're in a space to where it's this, they're in an extremely uncomfortable situation, and there's nobody there for them. And now they're just in a space to where it's like, they don't know how to get them. That could be dangerous for certain people.
Yeah.
So I say that to say, I started working at the gym, right? Mm-hmm. Which was a blessing, because now I'm having great interactions with people. You know what I mean? I'm speaking. Nobody knows what I'm going. You know what I mean?
No.
Nobody knows that. But at the same time, people, like the interactions, that's a blessing to me. You know what I mean? Like the connections, meeting new people, you know what I mean? Having conversation, meeting wonderful people, beautiful people, you know what I mean? But that's just going to happen by default. When you have a great spirit, you're going to attract that. But I'm saying that in the sense of like having to understand, like, man, I'm in this, but this is not going to last forever. No. And I'm so much of a better person now. I'm so much of a different person now, but I had to go through that. I had to. Now, can I look back on certain people and be like, when things do manifest, like, hey, yeah, you weren't there for me. I'm going to remember that,
right.
But I'm not going to operate in a certain space with you. God says I have to forgive you. That's a hard thing to do. I have to forgive you. If I'm going to be true to God, like, I have to forgive you, but it's not like I'm going to forget. But at the same time, I've developed so much in a lot of different situations, people not being there, abandonment, certain things. So when people see somebody and they're like, how are you operating in this space? Or you have a certain aura, it's like, man, you don't know what somebody's going through to get them to that space, because success does not, and this is something that I will always ride with. And I say this in a motivational way. Success does not come from a happy place. Success does not come from a happy place. Yeah. If you were to ask anybody who's successful, whether they're an athlete, a CEO, whomever, a business owner, about their story, it's pain, it's trauma, it's loss, it's heartache. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron. Like when you look at the greats, I'm talking just greats, Tiger Woods, and if you ask them specifically, not surface level, right. What makes you so great? Why are you up at 4 a.m., Kobe, and then you're back at 6, and then you're back at 7:30, and that's before 12 noon, you know what I mean? And then you still have 2 other workouts. What's driving you that hard? Mike, what drove you that hard? When I got cut from my high school team, when that girl left me, when my family wasn't there for me, when I was a bit like, it's going to come from a dark place in a sense of, okay, now I'm about to become so crazy. not become crazy, but become, in a sense of become the person that you want in such a, you know, in a good way, viciously way, to where it's like, I'm unstoppable. Mm-hmm. So success does not come from it doesn't come from a happy place, but it's how you curate yourself within that. You don't want to be, you know what I mean? You don't want to be bitter. You don't want to be, you still want to have a certain level of like being able to resonate with people. But at the same time, when you see somebody and they're like, man, how is he or she so different? And then you ask them their story, it's like, oh,
it pushes you back.
You've been through a lot.
Yeah, dude, it pushes you back.
You've been through a lot. You just persevered. Mm-hmm. You didn't let it stop you in that element to be like, a lot of people give up. And my heart goes out to people who give up, because if you could just persevere through that, if you could just make it through, if you could just tell yourself, this is not going to last forever. It's nighttime right now. It's not going to be nighttime forever. In a few hours, in 10 hours, it's going to be daytime again.
The tunnel, bro. The lights at the end of the tunnel.
It's going to rain, but it's not going to rain forever. But you need rain. Because if you plant the seed doesn't grow up. Bro, if you plant a seed right now and it's all sunshine, what's going to happen? The seed is never going to germinate. It's never going to grow. So we actually need rain. We need heartache. We need pain. We need suffering. And that's why I say when I linked into it, when it's like, that's when I started to become a different person. Because it's like, if I say I want to be this type of person, if I want to be a Leonidas type of person, there's no way that's going to come from a plush life. Mm-hmm. That's going to come from real heartache, real suffering. So when you see the greats, they had real suffering. When you see, like, whether, again, sports or non-sports, somebody who's great, a business giant, a sport giant, a CEO or owner, and you ask them on their life, that billboard of things that's on there, they didn't know what was on that.
No, man, they didn't.
They didn't know. And I'm pretty sure if they would have seen all that stuff that they would have lost, people out here losing their parents, their kids, their husband, their wife, you know what I mean? And growing to be great. You would see that and be like, I don't know if I want to be that great, if I'm going to have to lose all those people. But if we believe in God, as we do, that's part of it. That's part of it, but we have to embrace it. Those that embrace it, they become. Those that don't embrace it and they refute it, it's not to say they can't, but it's like you're fighting a force.
Yeah, man.
You're fighting a force. And that's why I say you have to embrace it.
Can't be God.
Yeah, embrace. And that's why I say I like that. Embrace suffering or embrace being uncomfortable. However you want to word it, but embrace it. You live to see another day, you're gonna become. Can't refute it though. You can't refute it.
No, dude. It's such a challenging task to be able to live each and every day like that. You know what